Hi there, this is Courtney from Courtney J. Reynolds Art. I'm just showing you some of the colors that I'm using real quick here. I'll have them listed in the description below. But I'm using a variety of mica powders, and then I also eventually end up adding some, like 1 drop of acrylic paint to make it thicker. You'll see that later. And there's some gold flake that I used for the center of the geodes. Just right now I'm just mixing them up real quick, adding the resin that I already mixed up, KS resin, and it's just mix. Sorry I couldn't show you the mixing and the geodes, but once I got it centered I didn't want to get my resiny hands on my camera. I'm doing a yellow in a little baggie because I just wanted a tiny bit of it and I wanted it to be super concentrated. I added a couple of drops of the Sublime Pearl green to my kiwi color to make it really vibrant and bright. And here's just my colors, scooping them in. And on the geodes, on the round ones, I left them as they are, as you see them. On the kind of ovally sized ones, I took a brush before I started recording and I brushed some gold interference mica powder on the insides, and then also just some solar gold on, so you can kind of see the really gold parts, but the other sides of them have the gold interference. Right now I'm just adding the rest of my resin, just the clear, to each little geode. I had measured out each geode roughly holds about 60 milliliters of liquid. So that's what I measured out, is about 240, 250 of resin. Just, you always want just a little bit extra in case you are short or you don't end up using everything out of the cups. But yeah, you just see me adding the clear and then spreading it out so that it's hitting all of the edges before I start adding color to it. I use a silicone spatula that I bought to mix all of my clear resin. It works really great. It's easy to peel off the dried resin. And just do some blowtorching from far away to get some of the initial bubbles out. And I had a little hair or something in there. And I'm just spreading out the resin to all the corners using a stick. Pretty easy. Just, you want to make sure that you're starting with everything kind of pretty level. When I started out, I had leveled all of my little, they're just the caps for jars that I get, just plastic jars, to keep them elevated just a little bit so that you have some space. And the box is just a LaCroix box that I put a drop cloth in, just so that it's easy to peel the resin off and it kind of keeps it contained. So now I had made a kind of a paste with just a tiny bit of the resin and the gold flake, and I'm taking that and adding it all around the center of all of the 4 geodes. And then on the 2 round geodes, I'll be adding it to the outside. Because on the outside of the other ones, I had done the painting, the mica powder. So hopefully that'll turn out really great when we see the finished product. So yeah, just spreading it out. The gold does like to move on its own, so if you get it in a little bit early, it gives it a chance to kind of set up before you add the other colors, because the colors will all flow towards the center. Just so you know, when you're kind of planning on using gold flake in a mold, it gets covered a lot of times. These ended up kind of rising above the mica colors, the green colors, for our green and gold geode. So just getting them all into all the little cracks and crevices so that it's just right up against the edges before it starts moving, because it will move a little bit. But it helps that it was starting out pretty thick, and then you're just adding it to the partially filled geodes with the resin. So they're not filled all the way. We're gonna fill them the rest of the way with the color. And I'm getting ready to add my colors, so I'm just mixing them again, making sure that they're thoroughly mixed. You don't want any oddly colored spots. So this is the dark avocado color that I really wanted to have on the outside, on the oval geodes, to try and complement the interference and the gold mica that was painted onto but also to complement the gold flake on the big round ones as well. So on all of these, even though they kind of started out a little bit differently, I end up using the same pattern. And I wasn't too worried about the zigzags and stuff. I know that the resin's going to move on its own as you heat it, and as you add more color, it's going to kind of settle itself. So I wasn't too worried. I wanted that dark color to have kind of a thick line on the outside, as kind of a barrier before we get to the other lighter colors, because I didn't want neon green next to gold. So we're just kind of straightening it up a little bit, adding a little bit extra, getting it to the edges. And these initial colors are all pretty transparent because they were only mica. This one is the kiwi with this one does have the alcohol ink in it as well. But you can see as I'm adding it in, it's pretty transparent. So I get through initially all of the colors, doing some nice circles, and they'll blend themselves, which is nice. It's a nice effect. You want to know that going in, that your colors are not going to stay where you put them. They do move because it is a liquid. So these are going in quick, and I like the bright sharpness of the bright green next to the kind of avocado-y darker tone, and getting some bubbles out. It's good to just keep periodically getting them. You don't want the flame too close to your molds though, because it can damage them. So this is the, I believe this is the olive-y kind of tone. And I had a little bit of glitter in it. You'll see it later, kind of shimmer through a little bit. But it ended up being very transparent. And so once I got to this point, I knew I would add it in to all of them. But I knew I was going to have to add something to make these a little bit darker. And so I chose to use some acrylics. Just one drop of a variety of different green acrylic paints, to kind of darken them up. And this is the kind of goldy green color that also is very, very transparent. I actually don't mind that these initial kind of layers are so transparent. It ends up making a really nice kind of layered effect. Once you add in the darker tones, it kind of pushes it around a little bit, and it really ends up being able to get a three-dimensional type of coloring going on these beautiful geodes. So you can see me kind of mixing off the screen just a little bit, the acrylics into it. And then I'll be adding them in a nice circular motion and really kind of darkening up the colors. So here's that initial avocado color with like a hunter green added to it, just to make it really much darker. And it was only one drop of acrylic, but because I didn't want to change the tone too much, but I did want it to be a little bit more opaque. So yeah, and you can see that some of the gold's already moved on those. And I just kind of went over it again. On these other ones, I went and tried to follow the lines of the geode so that you get the dark edge on it. And you can already kind of see, you can see how that spring green has already blended in pretty well with those colors. The initial layers have all kind of blended together. You can't really see the start and finish of them as much anymore. So I just keep going in, kind of following my same pattern that I had previously with these slightly darkened up colors. But I'm really trying to keep them very circular because these colors are darker, they're going to stand out a little bit more and you're going to be able to see where you trailed them through on the underside. And this is that bright kiwi mixed with a little lime green acrylic, and now here's that spring green with a little, I think I added one hunter green to it and one of the lime green. So this one had 2 drops in it, to get that really green color. But you can start seeing, you can see where the trail of it is. The resin is thickening up just a little bit, so it's not moving as quickly anymore, which is actually good when you're dealing with gold leaf. But if you don't try and fix your lines a little bit, you'll see I'll go back through and add in more just lines. That way you can see like a line and a line on a line. It doesn't look as bad if you have a little overdrop or a drip. It'll still blend a little bit, especially when we heat it up to get the bubbles out, but it kind of gives it that geode look where you have the darker lines over the top of the lighter lines. The gold's not moving too much anymore, which is great, but it is coming up over the top of the mica powder mix, the initial stuff. So it'll look really great once it's all done. And this is that olivey color. I think it just had a little bit of the lime green acrylic added to it, to kind of get it towards the center. And I wanted to keep the center a little bit clear because I don't want all the color to rush and overtake the gold, but I didn't want such large gaps on some of them. You can see there's quite a bit of clear still. So we just kind of wanted to work this towards the center a little bit, and then taking out all the bubbles again because there were some big ones. Then we'll add a little bit more color, and then I'm just going to start using up the colors because at this point the forms aren't quite full and we want to use up all of our resin because we measured it out exactly to fill these up. So as we just keep making more lines and blending the colors, it starts looking really like a beautiful geode. And this is that Tuscan Sunset bright yellow from Black Diamond Pigments. And I just really wanted to use it kind of as an accent color. I didn't want very much of it mixed up, but I really wanted it highly pigmented. So I used it in just like a tiny jewelry bag. And then you can see I realized, oh crap, I'm dripping. So I grabbed the little wooden spoon to help me move it from a bin to bin. And it's really, what it's doing is once you have it in, it's not staying yellow, because it's not going on clear, it's going over the top of the kind of the spring green color. And it's just kind of sinking in and blending, but it's making it kind of just a super bright little moment in there. I'm just kind of stretching it out a little bit with the spoon, and then I go back in with that bright green over the top of it to kind of really make a neon moment kind of in the center of the geode. And using up all the resin in our little cups just to make sure that we used it all up, because we want our bins to be completely full. And you can see that it's blending over. You know, you can see the little blobs and stuff are spreading out and blending in, cutting a little bit of the olive color through that avocado at the edges, right on these ones, just to give it a little bit of extra definition. And do the same with the round ones, and they're almost done. So yeah, this is that darker color, just kind of giving it a little moment, lineage to blend through. You can see that on those round ones that I'm working on right now, that gold leaf is really floating to the top, over the top of the green. And that dark green that we put on the very edges is making it really pop, which is really great. And I'm hoping that the painted on color, the mica color, is gonna look really awesome as well, and not have to need us to hand paint the edges. Here we are zooming in on our finished products. They hopefully won't shift too much as the resin has had a chance to kind of set up a little bit, but they're looking pretty fab so far. Really can't wait till see how that mica dust on the outside and the inside of those oval shapes turns out. We'll see you in the morning to pop these out of their molds. With these look really good against the white tabletop. The green's really shining. The edges of the mica are great. the gold's really coming through. They're a little bit see-through, which I kind of love, and they're a little bit sparkly on the back, which I also love. The lines kind of held, but also melted a little bit, so they're not really stagnant. It's great. Here's a nice close-up of the gold. This is the solar gold on the outside and the interface gold on the inside, painted into the mold before we poured, which I really like how this looks on both. And then you can kind of see it from the back side. It's really sparkly. The glitter settled a little bit to the bottom, which is okay. But yeah, you can kind of see our lines as we poured the in. Here's the round one, the gold on the outside and the inside. This one, I'll probably do some Krylon pen on the outside just to cover that up, but I kind of like how you can see the gold through too. Let me know in the comments if you think I should edge these to make them look finished or if I should leave it where you can see the gold. Here's the one with the interface gold on the outside and the solar gold painted on the inside. And I really like this vision of the shift, and you can kind of see the gold through, the gold flake through in the center. I do think I ended up liking the solar gold on the outside more because it's just always shining, but it's more subtle look on this one for sure. And again, this is the fourth round one with the gold leaf on the center and on the outside. You can kind of see that little hint of the yellow right in the center, the sparkly glitter on the back. It's kind of very interesting looking. Yeah, I really like them all. Here are some still photos. I really loved these projects. These greens and golds look great together. You can see them for sale on my website, CourtneyJReynoldsArt.com, or you can message me on YouTube, subscribe and like for more videos. Thanks.